Welcome to the Life Engineering Podcast. My name is Gabriela Embon, former chemical engineer, relationship coach, and author. In each episode, we'll uncover the wisdom, strategies, and tools to help you build thriving relationships and purpose-driven careers. My wish is that something shared in this space touches your heart, brings clarity, or gently guides you toward what you need most in your life right now. Thank you for being here. Let's begin now. Welcome to the Life Engineering Podcast. Today's episode is going to challenge the way you think about yourself, your mind, the way you communicate, not just with others, but actually with yourself. Okay, so let me ask you this. Have you ever felt stuck in your own thoughts, repeating the same fears and doubts over and over again? I mean, who hasn't, right? Have you ever wondered if the voice inside your head is truly you? Or maybe just layers of conditioning, fear, and limiting beliefs? Do you find yourself constantly second guessing your decisions, unsure if you're truly choosing for yourself or reacting to external pressures? And most importantly, what would you change if you could break free from those mental loops and start leading your life from a place of clarity and self-trust? So if any of these resonate with you, then you're in for a powerful conversation today because we will explore how to strip away the layers of fear and self-doubt so you can reclaim your personal power and truly lead the life that you deserve. Martine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabriela. I'm so excited to be here.
So today we have Martine Cohen as our guest. She's going to help us answer those questions, but let me tell you a little bit about her. Martine holds 2 law degrees and is a certified life coach, Reiki master, Theta healing practitioner. Yes, I knew that. energy, energy coach facilitator, and an inspirational speaker. But she's also the best-selling author of No More Layers, Discover Your Inner Power and Reclaim True Freedom from the Inside Out. I can't wait to hear more about that. Martine guides individuals, professionals, and executives to become the leaders of their lives and experience success from the inside out. Martine, I'm so excited to have you. Your story is powerful, and I can't wait for the listeners to hear more about it. But let's start from the beginning. You had a car accident that left you when you were working as a lawyer, right? And
Yes,
that left you with a severe concussion, unable to process the world around you. You probably felt afraid, right? You felt that you have lost your identity and you were forced to ask yourself, if I'm not my brain, who am I? Can you tell us more about that?
absolutely. So, whether or not we realize that, we're born into this world, we start understanding who we are based on how we feel, but also based on what we're told and how the world sort of responds to us as we're growing up. And then that creates a whole mental construct, a whole personality, a whole identity around it. But it's really brain based, right? It's our understanding of the world, the filters that we bring in, the sort of like initial experiences that we have. But imagine now if in 1 second all that is stripped away from you and you can't process the world around you anymore, not in the way you know, not in the way you knew yourself. You don't feel like yourself. You know that expression, I don't feel like me. It's because I can't find where I'm at from the inside. And the world doesn't make sense anymore. And it's because your brain is not functioning. So, from that perspective, you don't know who you are because a lot of what we are is how we process the world and how we interact in the world with each other and with ourselves. Once you lose that tool, or once you lose that sense of identity or that foundational sort of like, stronghold, then you're like, now what? I'm not tethered anywhere, I'm not anchored to anything. I don't know who I am anymore. And that's what happened to me. And it's terrifying because you're thrust in this kind of internal darkness. You can see
Hmm.
with your eyes, you can hear, but you can't interpret it. You don't understand it in the way you're used to. You just don't understand it, period.
I can I can sense how terrifying that must be.
It was absolutely terrifying, But you know, I say there's like a blessing of a dysfunctional brain, because we also know that our brain is the one that sort of can hold us back. We talk about mindset, we talk about thoughts, we talk about, anxiety, we talk about incessant thoughts at 2 a.m. when you're trying to sleep and right and relax. And that's because our brain is so overloaded that it keeps on trying to filter everything in the world for us and bring it to us with a story, with an interpretation to keep us safe. So imagine when you also don't have that at work, you
Hmm.
have some quiet for the first time and maybe forever. I'm not saying go out and get a concussion, please do not. And my book allows you to go through this process without needing to have a concussion or anything else. But the truth is, that's what happened to me. And I stumbled upon this process where when your brain is not there to sort of tell you a story and judge everything and, sort of categorize it in safe versus unsafe, you can go and explore everything that there is about yourself without fearing being afraid of it.
It feels like freedom.
So it is, which is why I say
It's like breaking free from all these chains.
yes, and there are self-imposed chains that we don't realize we have. I call them layers because they're basically conclusions from, sort of initial experiences in life that shape the way we're going to see life, see ourselves within it, understand and believe that this is who we are. Therefore, this is how we must be. This is what we can and cannot do because this is in character. This is out of character. Oh no, I can't rock the boat here. Or, oh, I must have this. It's always like running away from something or chasing something, right?
So I I can totally understand. And before we go into how can we go through this process without needing a concussion, that I know you describe that in your book, and I'm really interested in learning more about that. I'm curious first. Let's focus back on your story. How did you? I wouldn't say breakthrough, but how did you start the process of actually getting out of that initial fear or maybe confusion and into more, like you said, seeing the light and the freedom and the opportunities? Because so many possibilities and opportunities could emerge from this. How did that process start?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Honestly, it's because there was nothing stopping me, and this is what I mean.
Mm.
Our brain tries to keep us safe from certain thoughts, from certain areas, from finding out certain things. What I mean by that is going deeper within ourselves. That's if you ask people what's the scariest thing for them, for a lot of them, it's going to be like, I'm not going inward. I'd rather live outside of myself. I'd rather interact with other people. I'd rather get better at a relationship with another human being rather than going and exploring the one within me. I'm scared of the skeletons I'm going to find. I'm scared that I'm going to have, imposter syndrome. There's so many different fears, but they're all based on a fear that has been generated by the brain that we weren't consulted. Like, are you afraid to really go inside and find out who you are and all that you can be? Well, no. But yet, the last thing I want to do is go inside and see what's there. What is that coming from? Who's deciding that this is something that you should not be trespassing or exploring or going into? We are afraid of feeling fear. So, our biggest fear is fear itself. But when your brain is not functioning, you don't have a fear of fear. You can feel fear. It can be very intense. You're like in the eye of the storm. You're like grasping onto everything, but you don't have a story telling you this is good, this is bad. Stay away from this, go towards this. Think small or don't go beyond or this is risky. I didn't have any of that. I had darkness, I had extreme fear, and the only thing I knew to do is like, let me go see what this is.
Okay,
Because
so
there was
one day you're terrified, and
I
another day,
terrified. I continue to be terrified. It just doesn't stop me because I'm not terrified of being terrified. I'm not scared. There's nothing telling me you shouldn't feel fear. There's nothing saying, whoa, don't go there. That could be dangerous. That could be destabilizing. You're going to find out something. There wasn't anything stopping me. It was more like, I need to see what this is. I'm terrified. I don't want to be terrified. I need to go find out what this is. What's this darkness? And I think it's intuitive. I think we have a sense of survival inside of us, a sense of wanting to, either have a better life or figure out who we are or return to ourselves. It was almost like a return to me because there was nothing stopping me from doing it. I think we have an inherent need to return to ourselves.
Basically, all your coping mechanisms of avoidance and telling ourselves stories to justify whatever we're feeling are gone, and
They're
all is
gone
left.
because the brain's not functional. Simply because the brain is not working properly, and that's an inherent piece of what the brain is there for. The brain really, I learned so much about the brain, not as a scientist, but as an experience of truly what the brain feels like from the inside out. It's humongous job that it'll never be able to fill in 2025 because there's just too many things to filter, and then the ensuing and resulting anxiety, extra fears, maybe depression, maybe discouragement, maybe, disappointment, because our brain decides there are a certain amount of expectations that have to be met no matter what. But I wasn't consulted. I don't know if those are the expectations I want for myself, but I get the end result, right? Because the brain is like just giving you, we have about 10% of everything that's conscious, everything else is subconscious. So it's the juicy subconscious part that you want to raise to the conscious level. But when there's nothing stopping you, you can dive deep. And that's what happened to me.
Wow. So, okay, so we understand that we are not looking for a concussion. There are better ways to
Yes. My book
replace
is
it.
one of them.
So
Much
tell us,
safer.
so tell us more about how do we strip off the layers? How do we dig deep and find who we truly are and reclaim our power?
Yeah. So the first thing I talk about is the mindset. The mindset is almost sort of the beginning of everything else. It's almost the prep work before you're going to go inward. I didn't have an issue with mindset simply because I really didn't have one anymore. Right. It was like anything goes
Can you
because my
explain what you mean by mindset so everybody is in the same page?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that. So I call it the adventurer mindset, right? And so what that means is, when we're planning to go on a safari or an adventure or something that's unknown, but we're excited about it. So it's intentional and it's from a place of like choice. This is what I want to do. If you stop to think of exactly where your brain is at and what are the elements that make up your mindset, the way your mind is set for that particular experience in advance, and what the so called expectations are. And I'll explain in a minute why I say so called. That sort of state of mind, that mindset, could help us if we transpose it onto everything else that we do. And when we wake up in the morning, this is how we approach life every day. And this is what I mean. When you're about to get onto a safari, you know that it's going to be unknown. In fact, you're looking for the unknown. So you're no longer afraid of it. You have no expectations because it's an adventure. In fact, you don't want expectations. You're kind of welcoming the element of surprise. You understand that surprise is going to bring you new experiences, could bring you enrichment, bring you growth, right? This is adventure mindset. You're curious. You want to plan a little bit so you have the tools you need and you trust they will get you where you need to go, but not too much. Again, you're ready to explore. If we got up every morning with that mindset, that state of being in our mind, which is, I know I have what I need. This is an adventure. I don't know how this day is going to go completely. I know I can trust that however it goes, I have what it takes. This is what I plan, but it can change because after all, this is an adventure and it's one I'm choosing every day when I wake up in the morning to go through it in the best way possible and get the most out of whatever opportunity is going to come my way. When you have little kids and you have a flat tire in the middle of a trip and then it was raining and then you got the ice cream and it got all over the car. Those are the fun memories. Not when everything went perfectly, right?
That's
Why
right.
is that? But why is that? Those are the most memorable that you laugh at 5 years later because you're like, we did it. We got through it. We can trust ourselves. We have the resolve. And not only that, but we made it fun. So when we create our destiny in the micro, we feel empowered. But yet we wake up in the morning and if all of a sudden, we decided to meet at 1 p.m. and one of us is late or all of a sudden the power goes out, there's panic. There's, oh my goodness, how come? And then there might be a story of victimhood, or there might be a story of nothing ever works out for me, or there might be a story, why does this always happen to me? Or I don't know what to do, or that's the brain coming in and saying, whoa, I'm going to help you here. You're not helping me. You're boxing me in, but you're believing you're helping me. But I don't have to buy into that thought process. I can shift it to something that allows me more space, that allows me more curiosity, that I can turn that fear into curiosity, go and explore and trust in myself that I already have the tools that I need to get through it in the best way possible and see opportunities rather than, issues or problems or things that I just need to get off my plate or things that I just need to get done without really finding the richness in every possibility.
So, how do we stop that automatic, um, that that default behavior of defaulting to our subconscious? Nothing works for me. I knew this is not going to turn out a good day. How do we stop that and choose consciously a different mindset?
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to tell everybody that this is 100% mainstream. We all have this. It's not, there's nothing wrong. The first thing is no judgment. Because not only do we have these thoughts, but then we judge ourselves on them, and then we judge the thoughts, and then it becomes this loop of judgment that's really self-deprecating and not helpful. It sinks us more, thinking that we're trying to get out of something, this tough love, or there's like, I can't believe this is how I'm thinking, or I can't believe this happened. And it's like, first of all, there's no judgment. That's number one. Second of all, there's curiosity, because even the judgment comes from fear. We need to understand how we're wired. It's not
Mhm.
that we're choosing to be wired that way. Is that our brain has this very, very specific role, and it is overwhelmed when you wake up in the morning. There is already no mind space in your mind just when you wake up before anything. So
It's the
if we're
most overwhelming in the morning, actually.
right, because it's like, oh my goodness, how's the day going to be? It's like, wow, let me see how the day's going to be. It's a nuance, but it lands differently in your body, right? It awakens and triggers certain cells versus others. So the idea is, can we have that adventurer mindset in the way we show up first to ourselves and then to our day? If I say, oh my goodness, I am so tired, this day's just going to be like horrible, I can't wait to get over it, I've just programmed my brain to make that into a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like a program on a computer. It's software. Our brain's like software. Whereas if I say, oh my goodness, I'm tired, I'm so curious how much I can do when I'm tired. I'm not denying that I'm tired. I'm just spinning it and saying, you know what? Let's see what happens. That openness will allow me to see things that I would have completely missed, appreciate things that would just bypass me completely, and actually get something out of my day and start even programming my brain to know that it doesn't really matter if I'm tired or not. I can get an extra coffee. I can take a nap in the middle afternoon. I can slow down my pace. I could just slow down my expectations of myself or just befriend myself. I talk about being your own best friend, which means, hey, have compassion for you. I'm tired today. Great. Let me see what I can do. I'm not going to push myself ever. I can encourage myself and motivate myself and say, I know I've got this, and let's see how it works out. And with that excitement and openness, you will get much further than you would have otherwise gotten. And it's about the process. It's not about the outcome, because the outcome has nothing to do with you. That's where you relinquish control. The only control you have is, I'm showing up to the world. Let me see what I can do today. And then I'll take a step back and see what it was like. But I'm not in control of how it's going to play out because there's so many other factors. But I can totally have in my control and my empowerment how I'm going to show up to it. And that's always going to make it more interesting, more fun, more productive, and more fulfilling than if I had already decided this is going to be a bad day.
Wow. Is there a particular tool that you use in your own personal life when you want to snap out of that limiting mindset, or be more in a conscious choice rather than your subconscious bossing you around?
Yes, yes, and bossing you around, and you didn't even appoint it to be your boss. It just takes the job, right? And it's like, wait, whoa, whoa, hold on a second. Do I agree with you right now? And if I had a choice and I had no information, no thoughts coming to me, what would I choose? It's by keeping on raising the awareness, and it's what you said before. It's getting out of that automatic pilot as often as you can, and it's also really understanding why we're in it in the first place. Our brain was wired from thousands of years ago, and while we have, every, I don't know, 4 months or 3 months, you're asked to like update your iPhone to latest software. There is no latest software for your brain. You have to actually create it, right? And you have to update it. It's a self update. So it's about keeping as much as possible into your conscious awareness and keeping on raising it. So a lot of the time it'll be an after the fact kind of thing. And I talk
Hmm.
about something that's called the inner boardroom in my book, which is a simple exercise of just imagining. Let's say you take something after the fact, like you programmed yourself to have a bad day because you said, "I'm going to wake up in the morning. Oh my god!" You just look at your calendar and you're like, "Okay, I'm done. Like that's it. I'm fried. It's not going to happen. I'm so tired. I can't. Oh my god, I made a mistake. I have two meetings at the same time, overlap, whatever it is." After the fact, at the end of the day, go back and look at your day and say, was there one thing in my day I wish I would have done differently or thought about differently? And then try that exercise. So take that and say, okay, what happened in the morning? What were the thoughts or the voices in my mind? What was the conversation that led to the conclusion this is not going to be a good day? Because there was a conversation there, you just weren't part of it. It was a subconscious one. Who was around my board table? There might have been tiredness, there might have been discouragement, there might have been a fight with a spouse from the night before, there might have been just an angst or a thought that came to your mind that has nothing to do with anything, but added some anxiety. And if you hear at all those voices, if you hear at that conversation, if you raise it to a conscious level, just by raising awareness to it and saying, I'm not afraid of what it's going to say, I want to know. Because knowledge is power, and when I have the power and I'm empowered, I trust me, and then I can do whatever I choose because I trust me. I'm connected within. We have so much noise that's thrust at us that disconnects us from the internal dialogue with ourselves. It's like, you talk about couples, it's the same idea, but you with you first before you could do it with any other human being. And the better you get at it with yourself, the better you'll be at it with somebody else. So we don't listen to ourselves. We just do not.
Absolutely. I was telling somebody today, we are more connected than ever with everybody else. And I was talking with somebody uh, who works in technology, and I said, well, I help people get the level of connection that technology cannot attain for you, right? Connecting with your partner. No technology can give that to you. Yes, technology can connect us to the outside world and people everywhere, but there is that inner connection as you're talking with yourself, with your partner, that it's irreplaceable, right? So
Yeah. I would
you're
add to that. I would add to that it actually becomes, it mimics it. So we have to be really careful because it facilitates connection, right? Like we're able to do this because of technology. It can be a tool, but it also mimics it. And I feel like today the line gets blurry sometimes and we rely on it, as a replacement almost. But the reality is that it can sometimes come in between if you use it in that way. So we
of
have to
course.
remember what its goal is and what it's there for. It's to serve us, not for us to serve it.
That's right. Very well said. So what are the layers?
So the layers are really limiting beliefs, mental constructs, identities, anything that we've created from childhood based on experiences at the time that we did not know that we were creating them. And they were really at the time sort of a crutch and a protective mechanism for us to be able to maneuver in the world because you're born and you have no idea what you're doing. And you're supposed to learn it in very few years and then start navigating the world, start creating a foundation for yourself, and then start contributing to the world and interacting first with yourself, then with other people. And we're not taught these things. It's kind of like you're learning on the job and based on the kind of environment you're in, based on your internal wiring to begin with, based on how things land for you, which is why two people from the exact same household could have a completely different experience with completely different layers. There's layers around trust, there's layers around worthiness, there's layers around entitlement, there's layers around agency, there's layers around so many different things. Perfectionism, that was mine, where, and I talk about that openly in the book because people will see themselves differently through the different chapters about layers and whatnot. And when you understand yourself better, you can do something about it. If you have no awareness, you cannot affect any change, you cannot affect growth, and you cannot choose. We're born with, we talk about the freedom of choice, but we don't exercise the freedom of choice when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to truly how we want to manage, navigate our lives, and what we want out of life for ourselves and what really resonates with us.
I always say that for the most part, our choices as adults are not actually coming from a place of freedom. And people say, what do you mean? I chose that because I wanted that. I said, did you? Or did your subconscious want that? Since most of our choices as adults are coming from a place of correction or
Yes.
obligation. Now, obligation is easy to spot. You know you're pleasing someone, you know you're following someone else's advice. I find that the one that is harder to spot is when we are choosing from a place of correction, meaning that I'm doing something just not to repeat patterns that I saw growing up, to be different than my mother, to be different than my father, not to be like my parents when it comes to marriage, not to be with my children the way my parents were to me. I mean, learning from past experiences is important and is obviously needed. But what we don't want is to take our freedom to replace alignment with the need to correct. Simply because when you make a choice from a place of correction, you actually end up creating more correction. And when you make a choice from a place of alignment, inner truth, or no layers, right? Then you end up creating more freedom. And that's a big difference. Are you trying to
Huge.
solve a problem, creating another problem?
There's a huge difference. So first of all, it all comes from a sense of obligation, right? Because even the correction, there is a
Yes.
underlying sense of some sort of expectation, obligation, some sort of layer that's driving. So in other words, the question is, and the way that I like to say it is, are you deciding or are you choosing? We make
Mm-hmm.
millions of decisions every day, but how many of those decisions are actually choices? How many of those decisions are actually aligned? And that's the
So, what
distinction.
do you think is the difference between decision and choice?
Yeah, so a decision is something I'm doing to get off my plate. It's something I'm doing because there's something other than my alignment that is driving it. There is a layer, an underlying fear. Every single layer, every single obligation, every single expectation has at its source some sort of fear. So there are like primary layers and derivative layers, but at the end of the day, it's all based on a fear. The distinction or the this challenge sometimes is in knowing what is driving my next thought, my next feeling, my next action. Is it actually me? Am I aligned with it? Therefore, is this a choice or is it a decision? And we make millions of little micro decisions. I'm choosing to be on this podcast with you because I'm aligned and this is a great conversation and I know you from elsewhere and this is, we're completely like-minded. So this is a choice for me. It's not a decision where I have competing interests within me and I have not gone to listen to all of them to then find out where is my alignment within them. And the methodology or the way to figure that out, what's a decision, what's a choice, is simply to go into your boardroom, listen to all the different voices, components, people around the table, whatever you entities, whatever you want to call it, however you're comfortable, but listen to everybody. And usually they're subconscious, and then the loudest voice in the room gives you the conclusion and you're stuck with it. And then you make a decision. Also, because there's another thing, the brain gets tired of being in the question mark. I need to get this off my plate. Well, do you want to get it off your plate or do you want to get it off your plate well? Do you want to do it or do you want to do it well? I always said that to my kids. I need to do that. I'm like, yeah, but do you want to do it or do you want to do it well? It's not the same goal at all. And it won't give you the same process as a step
Of
by step.
course.
Your brain's going to give you something else, right? Life engineering. So it's engineered very differently, right? So the idea is how many times are you deciding versus choosing? Give yourself that split second to take a step back and say, wait a minute. Sometimes you have two options and you don't like either one. I'm like, get back to the drawing board and create another option because then you're not choosing, you're just deciding. So the alignment comes when it's a choice, which means you took the time to figure out all of the competing interests within you, and then you chose the one that you chose, that you want. This makes sense to me. This works with me. And that's a choice. And most of the time, we are making many, many decisions a day. So that's also a way to just train the brain to say, well, wait a minute. Am I aligned here? And I don't have to do what's aligned. That's the beauty. In other words, I can choose to go visit this person, even though I'm tired and it's going to mess up my day because I'm aligned to do something that is almost not aligned. That's okay too, because you have the awareness. That's true choice, where you don't have to do something if you don't want to, but you have the awareness of it all. And then you choose which one you want to go with.
Yeah, I have a thought. And now I lost it. I was so engaged in you that I lost the thought that I wanted to say in what you were saying. That was fascinating. I like asking myself why. why do I want what I want? So that's one question that for me is helpful to understand if this is coming from a place of correction or from a place of alignment and choice. I love what you said, that you could see that you are decided based on an obligation, a correction, and still be okay with that
Yeah.
and not go after what you know is in alignment at the moment. I think another way to know, at least for me, if what I want is in alignment is when I'm willing to go through the process without caring so much about the results. So I go, you know what? Whether it works or not is irrelevant. I just can't wait to explore this and see where it takes me, or to learn more about me, or or to develop these, new aspects of myself, or even to face a fear.
But that's the goal. So we usually have we're not process vested. We're very goal oriented and outcome sort of, that's how we measure success. And really success is from the inside out, which means how well did I do this process? Because the more invested you are in the process, the better the outcome. But you're not in charge of the outcome. And it really comes out of your hands as soon as you finish the process. And then you're like, okay, what's the outcome? But the outcome is that. The outcome is growth. The outcome is getting to know yourself better. The outcome is that true empowerment and freedom that as you go through life consciously and with choice, that's where you get to. The actual sort of 3D concrete outcome doesn't matter, because imagine if you're aligned with it, isn't that more important? Right? If you're aligned with doing a podcast as opposed to maybe writing newspaper articles, let's say, right? Doesn't matter. You're getting your message out there. The way that aligns with you will be the better way because it aligns with you, and at the end of the day, you're the one executing. So if we're stuck, and often it's very important where somebody's often we're stuck at, this is what success is. This is what I should be doing. The word should never be in anybody's vocabulary,
Yeah.
nor should any judgment, because it's not about, because that's an expectation, an obligation, a correction, however you want to word it. But it's really about, if I want to express my true self, I need to be able to be free from the inside out, which means I need to know what's aligned. And then that's what I go with. And then the outcome aligns with me, which means it will be the best way in which to get my message out. If it's written, if it's visual, podcast, whatever it is, does it really matter? Like, what is the goal here? Do we have, like, I call it like mind flexibility, right? Is it, I'm expecting that I need to do it this way, or I want it to work out? So I'm open to all the ways, because I will be shown the best way based on who I am that I don't know yet. And it's a discovery process.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that you said before, you ask yourself the question, why? Sorry. Um, I also tell my clients, ask yourself the question, what? Because why is still a form of judgment where your brain can start playing with you sometimes. It's because da 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 da. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But what about this? What about this scares me? What about this makes me hesitate? What about this is pushing me, even though I don't know if all of me wants to do it? All of a sudden, it opens to more curiosity.
Yeah. Or what's my desire? I
Exactly.
think
What are
desire
you
is
on?
so
Because what is open, why is still like, hmm, there's an underlying tinge of judgment that for some brains, the brain might like run with that and then make you believe that you're no longer judging yourself.
yeah. Yeah. What's yeah, absolutely. For me, when I say why, well, because I want to create that. But what if I don't? But then it doesn't matter, because I it's the person I'm becoming as I'm walking the path.
You're exploring. Yeah,
I'm exploring, I'm leading my life. I'm
exactly.
leading with courage. I am creating a life of no regrets, which is what I always say in the Life Engineering podcast. It's all about creating a life of no regrets. Now, that's not a synonym for a life of success in or results.
Eternal
Everything
success.
worked for me.
Right.
Yes, I love the book that talks about resulting, that you judge the decision based on the result. And that's a recipe for more regret, because, like you said, the results are not up to you. They're up to whatever you believe in. What is up to you is the path, the journey, the
The
person I'm
process.
becoming.
Yeah.
That inner motivation is all about the journey. And it's actually the only motivation that can sustain you. The
Yes.
other one, the moment you don't see results, you will quit. I always tell people, you have permission to continue even when you don't see results.
Yes.
Measure your success day after day. Measure the person you're becoming, and then the motivation is going to be there.
Yeah, measure how long you can stay on the path. That's what you need to do. Just stay on the path. It doesn't matter, because as long as you're on the path, you're growing and you're doing what you're meant to do, and you're exploring yourself, and you're getting to know yourself better, and you're just getting better at life.
That's right. And more clarity as well. The
Yeah.
answers are usually found on the path, not in the start line.
No.
I
And there
think
is no
that
finish line. There's no finish line. We're not in a rush to get to the finish line, right? It's actually what you can get out of the path, how you can contribute to it, the exchange that you have on the path.
absolutely. Wow. This has been extremely insightful and fun and thought provoking. And I'm sure that everybody, our listeners, are benefiting from this greatly because we explore really best practices to lead happier, freer, more aligned life. The power of self awareness.
And we
The
deserve it. We deserve it, right? We're not born with that knowledge, or we do forget it as soon as we're babies or whatever it is, because a little kid is actually very connected from within, and then we kind of forget that, right? It goes down to the subconscious, and I believe it's our birthright. We deserve to have the awareness. We deserve to know that we're allowed, and should give ourselves permission to go inward and find out who we are and live from that place.
absolutely, absolutely. Your thoughts are not always the truth,
Oh,
so
they're usually not.
we have permission to challenge them. We have permission to change them. We have permission to be different than our families and still belong because
Yes.
there is a benefit to keeping the layers, right? And I think that a crucial part of being open and curious to cleanse these layers or remove them, or I don't know the language you use in the book, is to understand the hidden benefit of having them, because if there was no benefit, the brain wouldn't keep them,
It
right?
wouldn't exactly. But when you outgrow them, it's okay to let them go.
Yeah.
Right? It's you don't have to. There's no you don't owe it any loyalty just because it helped you at a certain point in time.
That's right.
You owe yourself that loyalty, right? Not the layer.
Oh yeah. And for people to know that they can belong to their families while choosing differently, living differently, believing differently, they can still belong and be loyal and be love their families without having to follow their own
Well, I think,
stories.
you bring out something so important, because I think that if everybody in a family, it's that unconditional love of just be you. And if every person in the family, if that's what you teach your family, be yourself, find out who you are. And that's how you belong to this family. Because first and foremost, you have to belong to you because you own you and you're responsible for you. And if every family member, and that is how the family sort of is brought up, as you need to be you because you owe that to yourself, then that's how you belong to your family. Not on the outside, but on the inside, right? Like everybody has that respect and that holds that space for the other.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Martine. you
Thank you
know
for having me. It was a wonderful conversation.
it was, and I felt like when we had that coffee a couple of months ago, I felt like we could continue talking. That's how I
Yes.
feel right now.
Exactly. Same.
So it's been an absolute pleasure diving into these important topics because this is all about internal freedom.
Exactly.
So we can be more, the more we love and accept ourselves, we can then share that with others.
Exactly.
Wow. So your book, No More Layers. Tell our listeners, please, where can they find you? Where can they find the book? Yeah, and
So,
what can they find inside the book? If you could give a
yes.
synopsis of what's in the
So
book.
when I wrote the book was really meant, it's on Amazon, so they can easily find it. It's No More Layers, Discover Your Inner Power and Reclaim True Freedom from the Inside Out. They can also get it on my website, which is www.martinecohen.com. So it's easy. They can follow me on Instagram as well. And really, it's a book that my intention was, when I wrote it, was to meet the reader where they're at. So there's insights, there's my own story, because if you're asking somebody to go on a journey, you have to show them yours, and just be vulnerable and open. That's the first step. There are client stories, there are exercises, so different, learners, and the way people sort of like process things. It meets different types of readers where they're at. They can go back to different chapters. There's structure at the end of the book, in terms of the pillars. There are all the underlying and sort of umbrella layers and then derivative layers, so they can really start to get to understand themselves. And the book was written as their own personal journey and their invitation to go within each on their own terms. So there's nothing that's sort of thrust upon you. It's really just a safe space to start exploring yourself with a lot of prompts, a lot of guidance, and they can reach out to me. It would be my pleasure. I give workshops and talks, and also I still have time for coaching, so I do that as well. And it's kind of a calling to help people, as you know, and as you do as well. And so, in any way that we can be of service, especially in 2025, I think that's something special to be able to do.
Mm. Every word you said resonated with me. Calling, being in service, and helping people. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much, Martina. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for spending this time with us. If today's conversation resonated with you, please be sure to subscribe, share, leave a review to help us bring more transformation to the world, really. And reach out to Martine for any extra support you might need in your own journey of peeling your layers to find your own freedom. Read her book, it's on Amazon, and keep engineering your life with intention, self trust, and purpose. I'll see you soon. Okay. How do you feel?
Great. I think that was nice. That was a fun conversation.